I started out on the team, I guess I could say, doing scratch for Gwen, and then later I got brought back in to do scratch for Janeway. So Janeway's my favorite captain, so I was honored to do her. I knew they were going to get, Kate Milgrew, but it was just nice to pretend. It was nice to be Janeway, whether it be a day or a not day.
More than a day.
A day or a week yeah, exactly.
So for everybody at home that doesn't know what scratch vocals are, can you explain them? Because you've got quite the extensive voiceover background.
Sure. So scratch, when the animation process takes such a long time, I don't think people realize the amount of work and the steps that have to go into creating something that's fully animated. And this show, if you've seen it, is so elaborate. The animation is just incredibly beautiful. Yes. So they've been working on this for about 2 years now. It can get expensive to bring big names into studios over and over to re-record lines, to get like some basic vocals down so the animators have something to work with. So they'll sometimes bring in actors to do scratch vocals, or sometimes they don't even have the role cast yet, which was the case of Gwen. While they were trying to find someone cast as Gwen, they brought me in to do her voice. So basically, I was just there to help the animators have something to work with that wasn't just someone reading lines off of a paper, that was actually giving some kind of emotion and some kind of direction of where the show and where the character was going. And had a blast doing it. So it was amazing to be a part of that creative process and to kind of bring some of the characters to life before they got fully developed. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, Sirach, this is the main question here, and I think, Bonnie, you've already hinted you're a pretty big Star Trek fan before this happened. Is that right?
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Oh man, I was actually a part of the Star Trek Experience in Las Vegas.
What?
I was one of the actors. Yeah,
really?
I was one of the actors in the Star Trek Experience back in 2007, 2008. Yeah. So that was fun.
Do?
I was, it was a rotating cast. So I played a lot of the different roles. I remember one of them was named Ensign Thomas. I had to play the ensign type parts because I look young. And you can imagine, 13 years ago, I looked even younger. So, I was mostly just an ensign for most of the run.
Wow.
Unless, giving me a couple extra pips, people would be like, yeah, right. She can't get up the system that quickly. It's like, that's when you know that there's no one else to promote. When I get the pips, you're like, ooh. But no, it was so much fun, and it was such an amazing experience. I didn't know much about Star Trek before I got that job. And that solidified my love for it because I had to watch Star Trek for research because a lot of it was improv, to where I had to make sure that if people started asking me questions, I didn't break the prime directive, because man, and when you talk to Trekkies, they know am I allowed to curse on here?
I was going to wait for you.
They know their poop.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, they know their
defecation.
Yeah. So when they started asking questions of me and improvising with me, I went, oh dear, I gotta start watching. So I devoured Next Gen, jumped in straight into Voyager, DS9, and honestly, my love for Trek has grown. In later years, when I moved to California, I started doing rewatching of all of the series and realized, man, I am a Trekkie. And then it's all downhill from there. Yeah, it's been amazing. And thank you. And I do a lot of Star Trek TTRPG shows as well on Twitch. So for those of you who don't know those letters, it means tabletop role-playing games. So it's basically like Dungeons and Dragons in space with Star Trek.
Wow.
So yeah. So I've gotten to create a few characters for that, and it's like living in the Star Trek universe.
Sirach,
while rolling dice.
How is your half elf ranger doing, by the way, Sirach?
My half elf what?
Oh, I got so excited thinking that he actually played.
I'm sorry. I mean, you're a half orc druid.
Your confused stare.
I don't know the right answer to that.
Yeah, I
know. So I'm going to assume that you don't play D&D, and that's okay.
Yeah, no, I don't play D&D, but I do think that you have a fantastic and lovely voice.
Thank you.
It's so colorful. It's so colorful. It's so rich. Your voice, I think I can just listen to you talk all the day. It's like,
man,
it's combined with your humor.
Throw me some books, audio,
greatness.
Audio books. Let's go. I'll just read you to sleep. Three Little Pigs. Here we go. I don't know what books you have. But no, I love doing voiceovers. It's such a weird career path that I kind of fell into by accident, and I'm so grateful for it. And I love doing characters, wacky little kids, old ladies. It's fun because, and you guys get it. When you live in Hollywood, it's really all about, how you look and, different things like that. So if you're not the typical Hollywood look, it's hard to get cast in things. Mm-hmm. But with voiceover, I can show up in pajamas with a giant knot of bun in my hair. Bun hair? You know what I mean? Just a mess. And they don't care. They don't care what I look like. I won't do that. That's so unprofessional. I do that. I show up in pajamas.
Of course. But, why not?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, people in Zoom meetings. Half of them aren't wearing pants. You don't know.
Are you calling me out?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ryan, stand up.
You told her, Sirach. I'm not standing up.
Look, your Borg Q boxers were adorable.
Okay, so you did tell her. Okay, cool. Now you got your start in music, is that right? And then that kind of just transitioned into voiceover?
I did. I got my start in musical theater, and I'm from Louisiana, but I lived in Florida working for Disney, did shows in Vegas, then moved out here. So music was a big part of my trajectory of getting where I am now. That word was probably not used correctly. Oh man, should not have chugged a Red Bull before this interview. But yeah, music is
3.
Just one.
You should not have had one.
But music's been amazing, and with voiceover, music helps so much with learning how to breathe correctly and use your voice correctly. A lot of the voiceovers I do are video game type voices where I'm doing a lot of screaming and fighting and just randomly dying on a Tuesday. So you need to be able to use your voice in a healthy way without ripping your vocal cords. And music, knowing how to utilize like my diaphragm and breathe properly really helps. So I always tell people who are interested in getting into voiceover to take improv acting classes and music classes because they can really help. Yeah.
Okay, so you being a super huge fan of Janeway and Jake Sisko and Star Trek, was this one of those kind of situations where you just got a call and you auditioned, or you knew this was coming up and you did everything in your power to get into the right room?
I did everything in my power. I pulled every string just to get an audition. When I saw that they were making not one, but 2 animated Star Trek shows, I think Lower Decks was announced first. And I tweeted at Mike, the creator.
Really?
Going, I was like, in fact, it just popped up in my memories recently, like 2 years ago, you did this. And I'm like, thanks, Facebook. You don't have to remind me, And Dan and Kevin Hageman, I also reached out to them, and they really didn't have any control over the casting process at the time. They were like, "Okay, crazy lady, in my DMs, what are you doing?" And so I just kind of waited it out, and I pulled every string I could, like with my manager, with my agent. I was like, if you see any breakdowns for this, I don't care. Like, because a lot of the breakdowns of the characters were like looking for young to late teens, and they're looking for people who can sound like 16, and I'm 35. So if you look age-wise, I don't qualify for any of the roles. So I told them, please just send them to me anyway, and I will find my way in. And I made it all the way through the callbacks for Gwen, and that's how I started working with the creative team doing scratch for her. So, I mean, I pulled I think I mentioned this in another podcast, but when I showed up for my callback, I had like a galaxy print dress, a comm badge, a Star Trek messenger bag, like space boots, space print boots. So I kind of went a little overboard. And when I showed up, and they were all just like, "Oh, we get it. You want this. Okay, calm down." And I'm just like, I was just so excited.
They're like, you're not going to be on camera.
Yeah. I think I even made the joke, like, I'm wearing my comm badge in case you guys, in case you call me for the role, I'll be ready. And they were just like, "Oh, this girl's a little much." I was just so excited. I still am. I mean, honestly, the excitement has not left. You always want to, when they say love the job you do, you always want to work on projects and things that you love. And the fact that I get to work on Star Trek is, unreal. The fact that I'm canon, especially with such an iconic role, because I'm taking up the baton of a legend. So yeah,
it's very true.
Did they, when you were doing the scratch work, did they have a part for you ready, or were you just waiting to find out?
I was secretly hoping that they were going to try and find a role for me. Mm-hmm. They mentioned that, I was putting a lot of work, into the show with them, and so eager to help and eager to work with the project. And I think they were looking for a role for me throughout the series. And when the audition came up for the ship's computer, I jumped on it. I was like, I can do this. So,
now, Bonnie, for everybody at home,
did I spoil it?
No, for everybody at home right now, including myself and Sirach, we've only seen the first 2-part episode. So we haven't heard what the ship's computer actually sounds like. So when you say I can do this, my first thought is, prove it.
In one of the trailers, I believe you do hear my voice saying, disengaging gravity, something like that.
Wow.
So I basically just talk like this. Welcome to the 7th rule. Thank you for having me.
Okay, Sirach, we recorded that, right?
Yeah, I hope so. That's our intro from now on.
All right.